Hey guys, this is Joe at Gasper, and today we're going to show you how to do a super easy do-it-yourself fire pit. We actually sell all these materials here. You got some free time on a Saturday with your buddy, get a nice fire pit ready to go at nighttime. So first thing you want to do is find your center point where your fire pit's going to go. Make sure you're about 10 to 15 feet away from any structures. That includes fences, decks, whatever. Once you get your center point, what you're going to want to do, we have a piece of rebar for this. You can use pretty much anything sturdy that's going to go into the ground. And what we're going to do is we're going to nail this down just so it stops wobbling just enough. Our next step, now that we have our rebar in the ground secure, we're going to get some string line. And what I did was we made a little loop here. So that's going to go on top or through your rebar here. And what we're going to do is measure out 2.5 feet. Our circle is going to be 5 foot. So what I want to do is a 2.5 foot radius, which is 30 inches. And we'll mark the area in a circle where we're going to dig. I'm actually going to get our buddy Eric over here. He works on our crews as a foreman. And what he's going to do is help me mark out this area. So once I get about 2.5 feet from the center point, which is right about here, he's going to grab some marking paint. And our marking paint, just standard. We sell this in the store as well, just to mark out our area. Now that we have our circle drawn out, what we're going to do is remove this stake, and with a flat shovel, something like this, we're going to start removing the sod. Now this sod is going to come in handy later, because what you're going to do is put it around your fire pit to fill in that gap. Or you can use it in your yard for a place that you need sod, or compost it, whatever you want to do with it. So let's remove this stake. And to save the sod, we're going to dig down a couple inches and just kind of cut around this circle. What you're going to do is get right underneath the roots, and you'll be able to feel where you're just right below them. And we're going to scrape up. Now that we have the sod removed from our area, what we're going to do is dig out the soil approximately about 5 inches. From there, we'll start filling with our base course. Now that we have the area dug out at approximately 5 inches, we did go a little deeper here. The yard is kind of on a hill, so we wanted to go a little bit deeper for our base material. We're going to get this native soil tamped down, and after we're done tamping, we'll put our separation fabric here. Now we sell this as Mirify, and what this does is this is going to separate the stone base material from the soil. That's going to stop the soil from eating your base material and your fire pit sinking. So now we can start tamping it. So as Eric's tamping this soil, what he's doing is he's compacting that soil to stop it from shifting down. If you do not tamp your native soil, there's room to go down. When you build a fire pit on top of soil that has room to go down, then you have a problem. So the fire pit's going to be nice on a secure piece of soil, and then our base will go on top of it, not allow for any shift. So all Eric is doing here is going in a line, making sure he doesn't miss a spot, lifting up the tamper and throwing it down securely, trying to get as much power into that soil to compact. We do have some water in our soil here, so it's going to be a little bit tougher, but he's just making sure the most important thing is to not miss any spots, to get the whole area tamped down. You'll pretty much know when you're done when the soil is going to stop moving. You're going to see a lot less push down on your soil. And you'll pretty much be able to see the markings. I mean, like I said, we have more wet soil, so you're going to see what's done. But he's actually going to start coming up to the point where the soil stops getting pushed down, where he's not tamping anymore. That's when we know we can throw our Mirify down. Now that we have our soil tamped, we're gonna put our separation fabric down. And what I have here is about a 6x6 piece. It's okay if it overhangs. You actually want it to overhang. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna go up the walls of your hole that you dug out, and it's gonna act like a sling to hold that modified away from the soil. We're gonna have Eric and Denny throw some modified down here. So Eric and Denny are now adding modifies to our hole on top of our fabric. And what we're gonna do is about 2 inches. At about 2 inches, we'll tamp again. It's gonna be a total of 4 inches of modified stone, but we don't wanna tamp it all at once. You wanna tamp 2 inches, make sure that's nice, and then go another 2 inches. Again, you don't wanna do 4 inches because then the bottom won't get tamped and there's no room to shift. So modified stone is a combination of 3/4 crushed stone or drainage stone and some screenings, also known as stone dust. We use modified such as a combination of the two because it's very good material to compact. So now that we have our modified in on top of our fabric at about 2 inches, we're gonna get Eric over here to tamp this down nice and flat, just like he did with the native soil. Now that we have our 2 inches of modified in here tamped, what we're gonna do is just check the level of the stone, make sure we're not way off, and we'll know where to put extra modified. So I'm actually gonna need some more modified in the front here, just to level this off. And we're gonna add 2 more inches of modified. Now you do wanna be conscious when you're putting in the modified not to go up to grade. You wanna make sure that you still have about 1 inch left in your hole to put wall blocks that we're gonna be putting in. And remember, it doesn't need to be perfectly level. We still have some screenings, leveling course to make sure our block can all be level. But as of right now, what we'll do is add the 2 more inches of modified, making sure we're still below grade. Now we have all 4 inches of modified in here. What we're gonna do is actually, we have a stone rake here. If you have some kind of rake that can just pull that modified around, it's gonna make it a lot easier to get a nice level course. So now what we're gonna do is rake it out, even it out as much as possible, and tamp our last 2 inches. Now that we have our 4 inches of modified in our hole, what we're gonna do is we're gonna now add screenings, which is gonna be our leveling course for our block. I also checked that the modified was level or level enough, because the screenings will also take care of any discrepancies as far as grading goes. So now what we're gonna do is add our screenings. We're gonna tamp it down to cover the whole entire modified. And then as we add our block, we'll add more screenings to make sure that we have a level base and level block. So this is screenings. This is gonna be our leveling course. And what this is just fine stone dust. This is actually what's in modified in combination with 3/4 crushed stone. And what this does is it's going to add height to our block and make sure that our block can get level without actually adding force aggregate like in the modified. It's a lot easier to work with, a lot easier to metal your block on top of. So we sell these in bags as well as in bulk. Sell screenings pretty much every day. Deliveries, people use it pretty much every day, just like sand. We have 5 bags of screenings here. We're gonna add 4 here. We're gonna level it out, smooth it out, and we're gonna save our 5th bag for any discrepancies in height when we start adding our block. Now that we have our screenings over top of our modified, we are going to check our level. I have a 4-foot level here, and what I'm gonna do is make sure that our little bubble in here is pretty much dead on center. And depending on what side is not, we're going to adjust. So taking this level here, we're pretty dead on accurate over here. And checking front to back, I could definitely use some more towards the front. So what I'm gonna do is, I have a little finishing trowel here. This is an optional tool. It's gonna help you kind of smooth out the surface, kind of take out excess from here to put over there. And what I'm gonna do is, since I need some more in the front, I'll kind of just dig some out and add to where it's needed. So, like I said, the trowel is optional. It just makes it easier. You could use a shovel. A shovel's a little bit more awkward. You're not down actually right in front of it. You're more up. It's easier to be down here to know exactly how much you need to take out. So having a hand tool, any kind of hand tool that's gonna really be able to grab some of that screenings and push it away where you need it, it's gonna help out a lot. But you have a gardening tool, that could also be used. The reason why I like the trowel is not only is it able to dig some excess out, it's also able to smooth it out. So that's why a trowel would be much better than a small digging tool, but you can pretty much use whatever. Now that we got our screenings in and we have a level base, what we're gonna do is find our center point again. So remember, we made about a 5-foot hole. So 2.5 foot from the outer edge. So here's 30 inches. And that should be our center, but we're gonna check it from multiple angles here. So I'm just marking the area from all angles, and we'll find the common spot where all those marks go. 30 inches. So now that I went around pretty much the whole entire circle, I see exactly where we need to go with our piece of rebar or nail stake, whatever you have at home. Now that we're gonna nail this into the screenings, what we're gonna do is find our edge of where we're gonna be putting our block. And he's making sure that that's in there securely. So we can now do, tie our string line from earlier. So with our string line that's gonna get attached to our rebar, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark it at 15.5 radius. That would make a 31-inch diameter. I'll know exactly where to mark my inside diameter fire pit around this rebar with our marking paint. Now that we have our inside diameter marking paint, what we're gonna do is put our block in. And what I have here is a Cambridge Pyzique wall block. It measures 11 inches by 7 inches. And what we're gonna do is actually put the inside small edge up against this orange paint line. Remember, the marking paint is just to get us a guide from our midpoint. So what we're gonna do is measure again from our piece of rebar, and I should be right at about 15.5. Bring this back. So right there is 15.5. I know our first block is gonna be set here. Now to set this, what we're gonna do is tap it into the screens with our dead blow or rubber mallet. And of course, check the level. What I have here is a 9-inch torpedo level. And what we're gonna do is check the level on the block front to back, left to right. Now that we got our first block level, we're gonna add our second block. Now, for the first course, we know it's gonna be 14 pieces. And to get 14 pieces to fit universally, what we're gonna have to do, starting with our second block, is we're gonna have to gap it about 1/8 of an inch. Now I have this joint slicker, but you can use a paint stirring stick. I'm pretty sure they're free or very inexpensive. And what we're gonna do is gap the two pieces 1/8 of an inch. What that's gonna do is ensure that when I get to my last piece of block, we're not gonna have a huge gap that we're gonna have to shift all our blocks in. So now that I have my 1/8 of an inch gap, again, I'm going to take my tape measure, make sure that it's 15.5 from the center point. We're going to make sure that we mount it into the screenings, and then we'll check level compared to the first block. So after using the mallet on this block, I realized that I'm just not going to get to the height of the first block where I need to be. So this is where this tool will come in handy, where I can lift this out and remove some excess screenings to get that to match the height of my first block. If your first course is not perfect, the rest of your courses won't be perfect. Spend the extra time to make sure the first course is exactly where it needs to be, and you can just plug along. With the tool, I'm going to make sure that we're 1/8 of an inch gap still, which we are, front and back. Need to tighten up on the mat just a little bit. So we'll try again. Now we're perfect. All right, so here's what we've done. We found our center point again. We attached our string line. And what we figured out was a 15.5 radius that would make a 31-inch diameter. And what we did was we marked our string line and put the inside edge of our Pyzique wall up against that string line, marked at 15.5. And we went all the way around. Now put your block together, make sure that it fits together before you do any kind of leveling. That's where our last bag of screenings is going to come in handy to start leveling our first base course. All right, so now that we have our wall block in place and that they fit together to make a 31-inch diameter, what we're going to do is now make sure it's level. And now, the more time that you spent making sure your modified base and screening are level, the easier time you're going to have with this step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this block, and that's pretty much dead center accurate. What we're going to do, go to the next block, and I can already kind of see that this is off. So we're level, straight and back, not level, left to right. So what this is going to take is removing some screenings from here or lifting your screenings on this one. What I'm going to do is pop this one back, and I'm going to take out some base course just to get this level with the first block here. After using your rubber mallet, give it another check. Closer. Then on. Now, what we're going to do is lift the blocks out. And all you really have to do is tilt them up on the edge. And as you work around placing your stone, you'll know if you need to add screenings or take out some screenings to make sure they're level with these two continuing around. Now that we have our base course in and everything is level, now again, this is the most important part and probably the most time consuming. You want to make sure that everything is level, and if you don't, you're going to see it transfer into your other layers. So now that we have everything laid out, what we're going to do is bring that fire ring over here, make sure that the interior diameter fits inside that ring. So Eric's going to bring over the ring. We're going to make sure that this fits. Now you will have a gap. This flange on this fire pit ring is going to catch that interior diameter inside this block, right? So as we build up, this will sit on top of your block. And this looks like it's perfect. So now that we know that our fire ring fits inside of our wall block and that everything is level, we're going to start our second layer. And to start our second layer with another block, we're going to break the line of our first course. Put our second layer, Make sure it matches up with the interior and the exterior, breaking that line. You're gonna see the corners kind of fit in the middle of each block coming out. And what we'll do is we'll continue this around until we complete our second layer. So now that we have our second course placed, what we're gonna do is start gluing our second course. And what I have here is SRW adhesive. We sell this in the store. This is a solvent-based adhesive. It's very strong. You wanna give it about 24 to 48 hours to fully cure. But it's usually tack-free within 15, 20 minutes. I also have a 10-ounce glue gun. What I'm gonna do is cut off the tip here, break the seal, and I'll show you how to glue these blocks down. So now that I got my tube ready, I'm gonna start gluing our second course. And all I'm gonna do is lift up one of our blocks at a time, and with 2 beads, I'm gonna go across the first layer and then firmly place back my second layer on top of the glue. Now that I have my glue on my first course, I'm ready to put my block on top of it. Remember, you want to make sure that this is back where it was, even on the interior and the exterior. And just firmly place that block on the glue. And you're going to continue this around until every single piece of your second course is glued down to the first. Now that we have our second course laid out, we're gonna do the exact same thing with the third course. And remember, to break your line, first block will go on top of the line of the second. Make sure that your interior is matched up with the interior of your wall block. Continue around. Before we put in our fourth course, if you're not planning on using our optional cap, which I'll show you in a few seconds here, our last course is going to be flipped. As you can see, our block actually has etching in it, Pyzique. We want to make sure that that's not showing if you do not use that optional cap. So what we're going to do, make sure it's flipped upside down. They have a nice finished top. And continue as usual. So here is our optional fire ring cap. It's our Munich cast stone cap. This is for a more ornate look or a more finished look. And what we're gonna do is actually put our fire ring on top of this cap. Again, the ring is going to protect not only our block inside, but the inside of our cast stone caps. Now, if you don't like these gaps, you can also get a mortar caulk, which we also sell in gray, and you can fill up those gaps for a more finished look. I have the optional cast stone cap on. Now, regardless whether you do it with the cap or without the cap, the next step is to fill the middle of this with some kind of drainage material. What we're gonna use is play sand. You could use, like I said, drainage stone. This is gonna allow for extra drainage in the middle of your pit for water to not sit there in the ashes and the wood. Then dump this in here. Now that we have our drainage material in the middle, like I said, either drainage stone or sand, our final last step before we have our fire is this optional log grate. Now what this is gonna do is this is gonna lift your logs off that ground. It's gonna allow air to flow underneath to produce a better fire. Now that we have our log grate in, we're ready to enjoy a new fire in our brand new fire pit. Guys, I wish you great success on your new install. If you have any questions, we're open 7 days a week at Bucks County Hardscape at Gasper. Give us a call. Thanks for watching.